Hello and welcome to this Android Reverse tutorial brought to you by North Border Software. My name is Gary and this is part 4 of the series looking at reverse geocoding with Android. I did mention in part 1 that there are two methods of actually reverse geocoding. One uses the geocoder built into the device, but you'll find that may not be totally reliable, or the device may not even have a geocoder. So the alternative way is to use a call to the Google Maps API, just passing some coordinates to get the addresses back. In this particular part, we're going to look at using the geocoder itself, and we'll configure for the most part the things we need to do to make the geocoder work itself. The tutorial you're going to see is actually based on the example given on the Google Android developers website. You'll find that when you study that tutorial that it's got plenty of code fragments there, but it's not complete. There are a few things that need to be added, and also you'll need to make some changes to that particular code to make it work. So the example I'm going to give is fully working, and it's actually based on that site, so it's worth just looking at that example really to get some extra background information. So just to explain what we're going to do in the next two parts. Reverse geocoding is quite an intensive process, so we can't really put that on the main user interface. We do have the async task which could be used to run it in the background, but that's really designed for smaller tasks. So the recommended way of actually approaching this is to use an intent service. We'll put all the code for the intent service in an extra class. So really what we'll do from the main activity is effectively pass the latitude and longitude coordinates into that intent service, into that class as a bundle. The code will then do the reverse geocoding, and if it's successfully found an address, then we'll format that address and then simply just pass that back in the form of a bundle to the main activity in such a way that we can actually print the address out. Also, if it fails, then we can just push back some error codes as well. So the first thing we need to do is actually make some changes to the layout. I just want to add a text view for the address, and I want to add a button to initiate the get address. So let's just add those things in. So there's the text view. What I'll do, I'll just constrain this. Might as well just put this into the center of the layout itself. So I should just pop it down there. So let's just change some of the defaults here. Let's just call that address. And let's just change the ID. Okay, so just want to add a button as well. We'll just put this towards the bottom. So let's just constrain that there, and to the side there, and to the bottom itself. Okay, and we'll just again just change some defaults here. Give it the idea of button get address, and we'll just change the text. Get address. So that's the elements we need to modify for the layout completed. So the first thing we need to do for the intent service is actually add that to the manifest file itself. So it's just a couple of lines of code within the activity. We'll just go and do that now. So this is the manifest as it currently stands, and we just need to open some XML service tags. So this is the normal declaration we do. the class will be called fetch address intent service. The exported false means really only components within this application can invoke this service. If that was set for true, then potentially other applications could invoke the service itself as well. So this is really the declaration done. You'll see there's an error there, but we haven't declared the classes yet. So that's what we're going to do now. Let's just set up the class. So I'm just going to initiate a new Java class. So this actually needs to extend the intent service, so that's the next thing we'll type. Okay. You see it's throwing some errors here because it'll be looking for a constructor, and there'll also be an extra method to implement, which we're going to do now. So and it's on handle intent. This particular method will really contain all the code that we need to do for the reverse geocoding. Okay, so you'll see there's no error here, so we'll be looking for some form of constructor, so we'll just add the constructor in there. Okay, so there is one other change we need to do. If we go back to the manifest, just see we've still got an error here, so let's just have a look at this particular error. So yeah, I'm just hovering over the error here, and it says effectively that there's no default constructor. So this is a good tip. You'll see this often when you do the default code generation within the intent service. So we just do need to make a change, and we just need to we could just put this in quotations because we do need basically just to work with a string, and we'll just take this out. So it's kind of a workaround which is well documented on the internet, really, to get around this particular problem. So hopefully if we move back to the manifest now, then that particular problem is actually cleared up. So we're working error 3 now, so we're ready to move on with the actual coding itself. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is declare a set of constants which we're going to use within the class itself to represent various conditions. In the developers tutorial, these are added as a public class, but I just prefer to declare them at the top, and then when the reference from the main activity, we'll have them there locally as well, so we don't have to reference this particular class in the Java there. So I'll just get on and type these, and then we'll just review what we've actually got. Okay, so really these will be used within the coding as we go along. Obviously we've got some integer values there to indicate whether the reverse geocoder was successful or failed. The other elements really are there to identify key value pairs within the bundles. So you'll see when we use them, I will remind you about bundles and how those are actually put together. But for the moment, that's really all we need from the adding in the constants. So what we can do now, we can actually get on with the coding within the on handle intent. So the first thing I want to do is actually declare a string to represent any particular error code. We'll just call it error message, and we'll just make that an empty string for the moment. Okay, so next thing we need to do is just create an object of the geocoder. This is assuming that the device has a geocoder. In the next part we'll put some checks and balances in there to check for a geocoder or not. Just call this geocoder. just need to push a few some parameters into that. So it'll be new geocoder, and we need to just put this context in, and it's locale, and it'll be get default. Okay, so the locale.defaults really is a way of representing or way of formatting the data used within the geocoder. The locale within Android defines format of data, such as the month may appear before the date, etc. So generally speaking, it's how that particular country reads that sort of information: time format, day format, etc. So you may want to change that locale to your own particular country. I'm just going to use the default here, the get default. Okay, so right, so what we need to do is logically is get the location which would have been passed to this particular intent service from the main activity. We need to extract that location information. So that would be the location in the form of the latitude and longitude. So I'll just write some notes here just to explain what we're doing. So we get location passed to this service, and it'll be through some extras which we add to the when we initiate the service itself. Okay, so we'll set up a location object. I'm just calling it location. So let's just import that there. Okay, so should be fairly logical what's going on here. We've got a key which we're going to set up when we actually put the data together. We're going to give it the key name location data extra, and that's what we're looking for when we actually get the parsable extras. That's the actual data, and it should be the location, and then we can just assign it to the location object which should assign there. Okay, so while we're dealing with these possible extras, there is one more we need to consider, and it's a results receiver. That's what we're going to use to pass the address back to the main activity with, but we do need to pass that from the main activity which is actually set up, so we'll need to just extract the results receiver. So this may seem a little bit confusing, but you need to consider this class and the coding we need to do in the main activity together, but it's best to get this built and constructed first. So we're going to set up a results receiver. Actually, I'm going to just declare that here, so be protected. Okay, so I've just declared an object of the results receiver. So let's just put that there, and in a similar way we just get the possible extras. And those that particular extra would be identified with the key receiver. Okay, so next thing we need to do is set up an array of addresses. The reverse geocoder can return multiple addresses for a given location. We're only going to actually deal with one. Nonetheless, we do need to set up an array to contain that single address. So that's the next task here. Just call it addresses. I'm just going to set that to null. Okay, and let's just import this here. So Alt enter, and it'll be just Android location there. So, and we need to import list as well. Okay, so that's all sorted. Good. So all we need to do now, or the next task really, is actually try and get some addresses from the geocoder. If you think about it, we've got the location available to this class. We set up the address array really to receive the addresses. So really we can try the geocoder itself. So quite straightforward piece of code. It'd be addresses, and it'd be equal to the geocoder. And the method we need is get from location. Okay, so we just need to extract the latitude and the longitude from the location to pass those as parameters to this particular method. So it'll be location dot get. That's latitude first. Just a comma there, and similar thing for the longitude. Okay, so let's just format the code. You'll see it's highlighted in red here because it's going to want a try and catch. Actually, there's one more parameter we need to put in place, and that's obviously the number of addresses. So the one here just indicates that we're going to deal with one particular address. So yep, I'll zoom in when we review the code at the end of this. I just want to get things in place for the moment. So let's just try and deal with this error. So it's going to run just with a try and a catch. Okay, so we can deal with some of these particular exceptions now. So here the situation will be that the geocoder is not available, so let's just set an error message for that. And we'll set error message equal to service not available. Okay, service not available, and we'll just log that out to the error log. Just put the error log there. Just set that to tag. Okay, so we just need to import tag. Need to import log. Okay, just put a semicolon there, and that's done. So there is another catch situation we want to take care of, and that's whether the situation where we've got invalid latitude and longitude. So I'm going to try and put another catch in here, and it'll be we're looking for illegal argument exemption. So illegal argument exemption, and we'll just set up a just copy this here, be a little bit easier to deal with. Just that there. So just set up a variable for that, and let's just deal with this catch scenario now. So just put the note here so you know what's going on. So we're going to catch the invalid latitude and longitude. Okay, so a similar thing, we'll just set up an error message for that. So let's just copy that there and just change the data itself. I'll change the message. Okay, and in a similar way we're just going to log that particular message out to the error log. Okay, so just following the example really in the developer's website, so we just put the error message, the log file there to indicate the specific information about the invalid and latitude and longitude. So Okay, so the next situation we want to handle is the case where no particular address has been found. This first try and catch really deals with issues with the geocoder itself. Now we just want to handle the situation that the geocoders worked, but there's no address being found associated with that. So we could just check for a null address or an address size of 0. So let's do that. Okay, so very straightforward piece of code. If the addresses array is null, or the address, the size of the addresses array is 0, then we'll go on and do the code, execute this block of code. So we just need to say if error message as well is empty. So this indicates that there's no error at all. We'll just set a new message to just simply say there's no address found. And we could just print that out to the error log. Okay, so really we're left now with the situation where we need to get the address into the addresses array and actually format that into human readable format. The address is returned as a bunch of components, typically building name, city name, street, zip code, and we just need to concatenate that information to a single string to pass back to the main activity as part of the results receiver. So let's just put that in now, so we can actually just deal with this with an else, because we really kind of catered for every other particular instance. Okay, so what I've done, I've set up an object of the address class, and I've gone to the addresses array, and I've got the first element in there, the first set of data, because we're just dealing with the one address, so that's why I'm looking at the index of 0 to get that information. And what I need to do now is actually take the fragments of that address, put them into some sort of string. So we'll make an array list, and then we'll get the address, and we'll call it address fragments, and then we'll start to concatenate the elements of the address into a string for returning to the main activity. Okay, so this is the string array which will hold the address fragments, and I'll just put some notes here to say we're going to fetch. Okay, so we're going to use the get address line method to actually pull the components of the address back from the array which has been returned by the geocoder. Okay, so probably just one more note to just say join them as a single string and send them to the thread. Okay, so we'll just join them, send them to the main activity. So these notes are really just here just to assist when you actually come to review this. Good. So we just need to do a little for loop to scroll through each of the indexes, and then we'll just do the concatenation. So we use the get max address line index to get the number of components that have actually been returned. And we'll just increment I there. So it's just a single line, be address fragments, we'll just add them, be address and we need to go and get the address lines. Address line, and we just pass I into there. Okay, so so that's kind of that bit completed. We just want to just put another information log here. So if we just log some information and we tag, we just put a note there, address found. Okay. Okay. Okay, so I actually want to define a method. It's called deliver results to receiver. So it's really the last thing we need to do in this particular class. If we have a failure scenario, we need to pass the failure result back with the particular error message. If it's successful, then we'll send the success result back. Remember, we define those constants earlier on in the class, and what we do if it's successful, we'll actually take the address fragments and use the Android text utils to do the actual physical concatenation. So I think it's probably easier to just deal with the failure scenarios. So if you go back to where the address is null and just go here, then we'll just just declare the method deliver results to receiver. In this case, we're going to pass the failure result and the error message. Call it deliver results to receiver. Let's make sure we spell that right. And we're going to pass a failure result, in this case, and an error message. Okay, so what we can do is just get get this method actually generated. You can see it's got the parameters there ready. We just need to do a little bit of coding to finish off this particular class. So the other thing we need to do, that's the failure scenario. Let's actually just spell this right while we're at it. Okay. Let's just do the scenario where this is going to be successful. So after this particular point here, address found, let's invoke that particular method again and just make this a success result. And what we need to do is do the actual string concatenation, and we're going to do this with the Android text utils class to join the address fragments together. Okay, so that's really how we actually do the joining. We've got this text utility class where we can join things by getting all the fragments, elements of the address fragments array, and we're literally just going to glue them together into a single string to make a one-line address. So we need to just finally fill out this deliver results to receiver class. So we're going to create a bundle to pass the relevant data back, which would be the results data key and the message, and that's what we're going to do. And we just need to send that off to using the results receiver, which we defined earlier on. So let's just create a bundle first. Just call it bundle, and okay, so that's already imported in there. So, and within that bundle, we need to put some string information, and there'll be the results data key and the message. So the message may be the address, the message may be the relevant error message, but the results data key is there because when we come to the main activity, that's what we're going to use as the key to actually reference that piece of information. Bundles are all based on what we call key value pairs. So we're just going to put the string, be result data key, and it'll be the particular error message. I'll probably just change that because it's not necessarily going to be an error message. So let's just make this a little bit more universal, really, or generic. So let's just make that message. Okay, so just need to put semicolon there. Just make sure spell bundle correctly. Good. So the final thing we need to do is pass that information, that bundle, we need to pass into the results receiver, which is effectively the termination of the intent service. When it's done its job, we'll just use the results receiver to pass the information back to the main activity. So it's receiver. We just need to .send, and it'd be failure results, and be bundle. Okay, so that's a lot of coding going on there. Let's just have a review to better understand what we've actually done. Okay, so we defined this intent service with this class name here, which extends the intent service. We created a default constructor for that, and the Android Studio automatically put the onHandle intent method in there, in which all our code is implemented. We defined a set of constants here which we use to identify successes or failures, and also they are part of the keys within a lot of the key value pairs we need for the various bundles we're passing backwards and forwards. We also set up a results receiver which we use to send the results back to the main activity. So really it's just a case of setting up an object of the geocoder, and we also pass from the main activity into this service the location itself, and also the results receiver is actually defined in the main activity as well, and that needs to be passed in, so we send it back. Then we just created a blank an array ready for the addresses, and then we actually go and try to use the geocoder. So we use the get from location method, and we need to convert our location to the appropriate latitude and longitude, and we're just interested in a single address there. So we have a number of potential failure scenarios which we try and cater for, and defining the error messages here. So what's left then is the situation where the geocoder's worked, but it may be no address there, so we want to check to see if we've got no results returned, effectively no address found, and then we can send that back to the deliver results to receiver method, which we define later on. The only other case we need to discuss in detail is the case where we found the addresses. We're just really interested in one address, so we're getting the first element of this address array, which is the results of the geocoder itself, and then we want to put those results from the geocoder into an array list of strings, which we'll later concatenate together. So we define that array, and then what we did, we passed that the addresses array to actually go and fill out the array list of strings here. So this is what this for loop is doing. And then we can identify the fact that we've actually found the address. So then in this scenario we can deliver these results to receiver. That's obviously done with a successful result, and we use the text utils to join the elements of the address fragments array into a single string. So the final thing we need to do is actually pass the results back to the main activity, and we do that in the form of a bundle. And the bundle will be the message, and then we send the bundle back with the failure result, which is either success or fail. So really, I know there's a lot going on there, but we've actually finished that particular class now. So in the next part we'll go on to do the work on the main activity, and then we can actually test the geocoder itself. So hope you found this one useful. Catch you in the next one. Bye for now. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe if you find this tutorial useful. All the project files and source code are available for download on my website. Thank you.